Imagine waking up every morning, not just to a routine, but to a purpose so clear it fuels your every step. A purpose so powerful that it turns obstacles into opportunities, doubt into drive, and ordinary moments into extraordinary impact. Living your why isn't a luxury, it's urgent, because every day you delay, you trade potential for mediocrity. Today, I'm going to show you how to stop surviving and start living the reason you were meant to exist. Every man carries a compass inside him, but too often he ignores it, distracted by obligations, expectations, or the relentless pressure to perform. This compass is your why, the underlying reason you get out of bed, the force that drives your decisions and shapes your identity. When a man discovers this inner guide, he stops drifting through life, reacting to circumstances, and starts moving intentionally towards something that matters deeply to him. It's not about success in the conventional sense. It's about alignment, clarity, and the courage to act in accordance with who he truly is. Understanding your why requires courage to look inward, to confront uncomfortable truths about your fears, desires, and limitations. Men often struggle with this because society rewards stoicism and action over reflection. But self-awareness is not weakness, it is power. Women notice this deeply. A man who knows his purpose carries a magnetic presence. He inspires trust, attracts partnership, and communicates stability even in chaos. They sense the difference between a man driven by external validation and one guided by internal conviction. The latter creates safety, consistency, and authenticity in relationships. Qualities both men and women instinctively respect and seek. Discovering your why is not an abstract exercise. It is a practical tool for decision-making and resilience. It shapes how you handle work, conflict, and intimacy. When a man identifies the purpose that drives him, he begins to act with intentionality rather than reaction. Every choice becomes a reflection of who he is and what he stands for. Women respond to this energy not just emotionally, but biologically. They recognize alignment and commitment in a way that transcends words. Living in accordance with your why transforms ordinary presence into authority, hesitation into decisiveness, and everyday routines into meaningful progress. Purpose without action is like a map left unopened. It exists, but it cannot guide you. Every choice a man makes, every interaction, every commitment must reflect the why he has discovered. Alignment is not about perfection, it is about intentionality. When a man moves with purpose, he no longer acts out of habit, expectation, or fear. He acts in harmony with the values that define him. This alignment creates a rhythm in life where decisions become easier, energy is conserved, and his presence commands authenticity that others instinctively recognize. Men often struggle with aligning actions because of societal pressures to perform, to achieve, to appear strong, even when uncertain. The challenge is internalized. The mind wants control. The ego craves recognition, and yet fulfillment comes only when behavior mirrors belief. Women observe this alignment intuitively. They can sense when a man's words, gestures, and ambitions are rooted in genuine purpose rather than obligation or performance. Alignment cultivates trust, respect, and emotional safety. A man who consistently acts in accordance with his why becomes magnetic, not because he is louder or stronger, but because he is coherent, consistent, and grounded. Alignment is a daily practice, not a one-time realization. It influences how a man shows up at work, how he nurtures relationships, and how he approaches challenges. Each choice either reinforces his purpose or pulls him away from it. Women respond to this consistency as much as men value it in themselves. It signals reliability, integrity, and leadership. When a man commits to aligning actions with purpose, he transforms ordinary routines into expressions of identity, and every interaction becomes a reflection of his deepest convictions. This alignment creates momentum, resilience, and a life that is unmistakably his own. Too many men live under the weight of should, the invisible rules that dictate how they must act, who they must become, and what they must achieve. These chains are reinforced by society, culture, and even family expectations, whispering that success is measured by compliance rather than authenticity. Living according to should is exhausting because it divorces action from purpose. Every decision becomes a compromise, every achievement hollow, and every relationship strained. Freedom begins the moment a man stops asking what he ought to do and starts asking what he truly believes in and values. Breaking free from, should requires courage to confront internal and external pressures simultaneously. Men are conditioned to seek approval, to prove competence, and to maintain control, often at the cost of their inner compass. Women notice this struggle, often observing when a man's actions are dictated by expectation rather than intention. They respond to authenticity, to choices grounded in conviction rather than performance. When a man chooses to act from purpose rather than duty, he becomes more relatable, more trustworthy, and more inspiring. Authenticity attracts connection, and connection reinforces purpose. The chains of should also distort priorities, making men sacrifice presence, passion, and meaningful relationships for appearances and obligations. Freedom demands vigilance, noticing where societal pressure seeps into decisions, challenging the habits that prioritize external validation, and consciously choosing actions aligned with the why discovered within. Women sense the difference immediately. A man who lives by should feels distant, predictable, and constrained, while a man who acts with purpose is magnetic, present, and alive. Reclaiming autonomy over decisions transforms energy, focus, and relationships, creating a life where actions resonate with identity rather than expectation, and where fulfillment grows from internal alignment rather than external approval. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Every man experiences it. The knot in the stomach before a difficult conversation, the hesitation before a big decision, the worry that failure will define him. Most respond by avoiding, by retreating, or by overcompensating. But fear, when understood and harnessed, becomes one of the most powerful motivators a man can have. It is energy waiting to be converted into courage, focus, and action. The first step is acknowledging it without judgment, seeing it as an ally that highlights what truly matters. Men often mistake fear for weakness, hiding it behind bravado or busyness. Society conditions men to be fearless and unshakable, yet real strength is not the absence of fear, it is using fear to clarify purpose. Women recognize this distinction instinctively. They sense when a man is guided by fear versus guided by intent. When fear is transformed into fuel, it radiates a controlled intensity and authenticity that draws respect and inspires trust. Women respond to this energy not because it is forceful, but because it signals self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Turning fear into fuel requires practice and precision. It begins with reflection, understanding what triggers the fear, why it exists, and how it connects to the man's deeper purpose. Then deliberate action channels the energy toward growth rather than avoidance. Men who master this dynamic discover that fear sharpens focus, accelerates learning, and deepens commitment. Women notice how this alignment impacts praise, NCE, and relationships. A man who acts despite fear is compelling, reliable, and magnetic. Fear ceases to be a barrier and becomes a catalyst, converting vulnerability into power and hesitation into momentum, allowing men to pursue them why with clarity and courage. Authenticity is not optional, it is magnetic. A man who lives in alignment with his purpose does more than achieve personal clarity. He influences the people around him in ways that no strategy, charm, or authority can replicate. Men often underestimate the power of simply being real. Society encourages masking, posturing, and playing roles, but these behaviors create distance, mistrust, and exhaustion. When a man chooses authenticity, he radiates a quiet authority that resonates deeply, drawing respect without demand and connection without manipulation. Living authentically requires confronting uncomfortable truths. It demands honesty about weaknesses, desires, and priorities. Many men avoid this because it feels risky. Admitting uncertainty or vulnerability appears dangerous in a culture that prizes control and strength. Yet women recognize authenticity immediately. They sense when a man's actions, words, and intentions are congruent. A man who embraces his true self builds trust effortlessly. His presence communicates that he is dependable, self-aware, and committed to meaningful principles rather than fleeting approval. Influence arises naturally from this alignment because people are drawn to coherence and courage. They want to follow someone who embodies what he preaches. Authenticity is not passive, it is active engagement. Every decision, from career choices to daily interactions, becomes an opportunity to demonstrate consistency with one's why. Men who live authentically provide clarity for themselves and others, setting standards not through authority but through example. Women respond not just emotionally, but instinctively. To men who act in alignment with their values, they see stability, integrity, and leadership in the choices made without compromise. Influence grows not from persuasion or power, but from a sustained demonstration of self-consistency, courage, and intentionality. Living authentically also reshapes relationships and environments. Men who embrace authenticity inspire those around them to explore their own purpose, to confront fear, and to align action with meaning. Women, partners, colleagues, and friends sense this ripple effect, feeling safer, understood, and motivated by the man's example. Authentic influence transforms ordinary interactions into moments of impact, demonstrating that the most profound way to lead is not through titles or directives, but through visible commitment to one's core values and the courage to act on them consistently. A life without legacy is a life that fades unnoticed. Men often measure success by immediate achievements, status, or approval, but these markers are fleeting. True fulfillment comes from impact that endures beyond personal gain. Committing to a life that leaves a legacy requires a man to see himself not just in the present, but as part of a larger story, one that touches family, community, and even strangers. This perspective shifts priorities from convenience to contribution, from recognition to significance. Legacy begins with choices rooted in purpose. Every decision a man makes, how he leads, how he loves, how he handles failure, carries weight beyond the moment. Men are wired to protect, provide, and perform, yet these instincts reach their highest expression when guided by why. Women observe this differently, but with equal clarity. They feel the long-term vision a man carries through the way he invests time, demonstrates consistency, and makes sacrifices for values greater than himself. Legacy is not a monument. It is influence felt through actions that inspire growth, courage, and authenticity in others. Committing to legacy demands discipline and courage. It requires resisting short-term gratifications and pressures that pull a man away from his purpose. Men often underestimate the internal battles that define legacy: fear of failure, doubt, and societal expectation. Yet confronting these fears with intentional action strengthens character and models resilience. Women notice this courage instinctively. A man who faces challenges in alignment with his values reassures others that integrity matters more than convenience, and that enduring principles outweigh transient wins. His example teaches commitment, perseverance, and accountability without needing to articulate it. Legacy also thrives in relationships. Men who invest in mentorship, empathy, and connection leave imprints that far outlast accomplishments or wealth. Women sense the energy of legacy when a man's presence brings clarity, confidence, and reassurance. His influence creates a ripple effect, guiding children, peers, and partners to align with their own purpose, act courageously, and live authentically. Each decision, each act of integrity compounds over time, producing impact that transcends immediate circles. By living intentionally, a man shapes a narrative that extends beyond his lifetime, demonstrating that the most profound legacy is not measured in possessions or accolades, but in the lives touched, the courage inspired, and the authenticity modeled for generations to come.